Chen tightly gripped his worn leather wallet as he entered Luxury Motors, his footsteps resonating against the gleaming marble floor. At 72, he moved with a quiet grace that belied his modest attire, a faded pair of slacks and a cherished blue sweater, a gift from his late wife, Margaret, years ago. The showroom sparkled with brand-new cars, standing like silent guardians, and for a moment, Robert took it all in. After 2 years of meticulous saving and careful planning, he had finally arrived at this moment. Having driven the same Toyota Corolla for 2 decades, Robert was now ready to fulfill a long-held dream, owning a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. The $120,000 in his savings was a testament to years of sacrifice and disciplined choices. "Can I help you?" a sharply dressed young salesman approached, his name tag reading Blake. Though his suit was immaculate, his smile was superficial, and his gaze swiftly assessed Robert with subtle disdain. "Yes," Robert replied, pointing toward the sleek silver sedan that had caught his eye. "I'm interested in the S-Class." Blake chuckled under his breath, sharing an amused glance with a colleague nearby. "Sir, this is the Mercedes-Benz S-Class," he said, his tone laced with condescension. "It starts at $110,000. Perhaps I could show you something more appropriate? We have some excellent pre-owned Toyotas." A flush crept up Robert's face, his pride stung. "I'm aware of the price," he said calmly. "I'd like to test drive it, please." Blake's expression hardened. "Look, sir," he began, dripping with patronizing charm, "we don't offer test drives without proof of funds. We can't waste time on window shoppers." By now, other employees had gathered, their poorly concealed smirks adding to Robert's humiliation. Moments later, the sales manager, Derek Thompson, sauntered over with an air of smug authority. "Is there an issue here?" Thompson asked, his tone already hinting at his assumption of Robert being the problem. "I have the money," Robert said, his voice steady as he reached for his bank statements. His hands quivered, not from age, but from a rising mix of anger and embarrassment. Thompson's smirk widened as he raised his voice for the room to hear. "Sir, this is a luxury dealership. We cater to a certain type of clientele. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're making our actual customers uncomfortable." The laughter and whispers around him felt like daggers, but Robert stood firm. He thought of Margaret, her warm smile and unwavering encouragement. She would have told him to stay strong. "Very well," he said softly, turning toward the door. At the entrance, he paused, glancing back. "My wife used to say, character is revealed in how you treat those who seem to offer you nothing." That night, Robert sat in his study, surrounded by photographs that whispered of happier times. Instead of his usual cup of tea, he held the phone, speaking with his son Michael, a successful investment banker in New York. "They did what?" Michael's voice crackled with outrage. "It's fine, son," Robert sighed. "I'll just go to another dealership." "No, Dad, it's not fine," Michael snapped. "You've worked too hard to be disrespected like that." There was a pause, followed by the rapid clicking of a keyboard. "Did you know Luxury Motors is struggling?" Michael continued. "Their parent company is trying to sell them. Poor customer service has tanked their sales for years." Robert straightened in his chair, an idea beginning to take shape. "Tell me more." "Automax Corp., their parent company, wants to offload the dealership for $5 million, Michael explained, his voice growing excited. "That's actually below market value, considering their assets." Robert's mind raced. "Son, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "I'll make some calls," Michael replied confidently. "We can finalize this tomorrow." The following morning, Robert dressed in his finest suit, the same one he had worn to Margaret's funeral. He styled his silver hair neatly and grabbed his old leather briefcase. When he stepped back into Luxury Motors, His stride was purposeful, his presence commanding. Blake was the first to notice him, and immediately sneered. "Sir, I thought we made it clear yesterday." "Good morning," Robert interrupted firmly. "I'm here to speak with Derek Thompson. He doesn't have time for—" "Oh, I'm quite sure he'll make time," Robert replied, his voice calm yet unwavering. "Calmly tell Mr. Thompson that Robert Chen is here, the new owner of Luxury Motors," Robert stated, his tone measured but firm. Blake's complexion turned ghostly pale as whispers began spreading like wildfire among the stunned employees. All eyes turned toward Robert, and a hush fell over the room. Moments later, Derek Thompson stormed out of his office, his expression a mixture of irritation and disbelief. "What is the meaning of this nonsense?" he demanded. Without a word, Robert opened his briefcase and calmly produced a folder. "These," he said, holding up the documents, "are the ownership transfer papers. Signed this morning. Automax Corp. was more than happy to accept my offer." Turning to address the gathered staff, Robert continued, "As my first act as owner, I must unfortunately announce some personnel changes." The room grew even quieter, tension thick in the air. Mr. Thompson, Mr. Blake, and anyone else who found amusement in yesterday's events, you have until the end of the day to clear out your desks. Blake stammered, stepping forward. "Sir, please. I have a family." "So do many of the people you've likely humiliated over the years," Robert interjected, his voice firm but even. "I suggest you keep that in mind in your next role. Life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes, the person you dismissed today might be signing your paycheck tomorrow." The dismissed employees gathered their belongings in silence, heads bowed in shame. Turning to the remaining staff, Robert spoke with authority. "To those staying, this dealership is about to change. Every single customer who walks through these doors will be treated with dignity, no matter their appearance or background. We'll implement new training programs and a mystery shopper system to ensure this becomes our standard." He walked over to the silver S-Class he had admired just the day before. "And this," he said, patting the car's hood, "will be my first purchase as the new owner. I trust there won't be any issues this time." Later that day, Robert slid into the driver's seat of his new Mercedes, inhaling the rich aroma of fine leather. He set Margaret's photo on the dashboard and smiled. "You were right, my love," he whispered softly. "Character truly reveals itself, and sometimes justice finds its way in unexpected forms." Over the next year, Luxury Motors transformed under Robert's leadership. Word spread about the dealership's impeccable customer service, and sales began to climb. Robert launched a program to help seniors navigate the car buying process and established a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth pursuing careers in the automotive industry. The replacements for Blake and Thompson were chosen with care, professionals known for their history of treating customers with respect and fairness. Robert made it clear to every employee, success wasn't just about profits, but about fostering trust and showing kindness. One day, nearly a year after the infamous incident, an elderly woman in simple clothes walked into the showroom. The staff greeted her warmly, patiently showing her every car she wanted to see. To their surprise, she revealed herself as a wealthy widow purchasing 3 cars for her grandchildren's college graduations. From his office, Robert watched the scene with quiet pride. His phone buzzed with a text from Michael. "Proud of you, Dad. Mom would be too." Robert looked at Margaret's photo on his desk, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The dealership's success was sweet, but the real victory was the culture he had cultivated, a place where every customer, regardless of status or wealth, felt valued and respected. That evening, as Robert drove his S-Class home, the sting of past humiliation had long faded, replaced by the satisfaction of knowing he had made a difference. Pulling into his driveway, he noticed his neighbor struggling with grocery bags. Without hesitation, He parked and rushed to help, reminded of how small gestures of kindness could brighten someone's day. "Thank you, Robert," she said. "I've been thinking about getting a new car, but wasn't sure about dealing with a dealership at my age." Robert smiled warmly. "I know just the place, and I promise you'll be treated like family." The story of Luxury Motors became a local legend. But for Robert, the true reward wasn't the thriving business or proving doubters wrong. It was the assurance that no one else would endure what he had. Every morning, before the dealership opened, Robert would walk the showroom, making sure everything was in perfect order, and glancing at the framed quote from Margaret near the entrance. Character reveals itself in how you treat those you think can't benefit you. Whenever a customer asked about it, Robert would smile and say, "There's a story behind that quote. Let me share it with you while we look at some cars." The lesson was clear to all who heard it. Wealth and success don't define worth, and the best revenge isn't retaliation. It's ensuring no one else suffers the same way you did. As for Blake and Thompson, Robert never saw them again, though he heard they'd found work at other dealerships. He hoped they had learned from the experience. After all, you never know when the next person walking through your door might just be another Robert Chen. And the S-Class? Robert still drives it daily, keeping it spotless. But when people admire the car, he doesn't boast about its luxury features. Instead, he tells them about the dealership where they can find one, a place where every customer is treated like a millionaire, whether they are or not. The end of Robert's story isn't about revenge or wealth. It's about dignity, respect, and the power of transforming a painful moment into lasting change. And as he walked through the showroom one last time each evening, glancing at Margaret's photo, he knew he had created something far greater than a successful dealership, a legacy of kindness and character that would endure for generations.